Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. In the narrow, noisy alleyways of the Rivière Saint neighborhood, every face tells a story. Some are marked by poverty, others by precarious living conditions, and all live under the merciless gaze of neighbors and unspoken judgments. It's a place where reputations are built quickly, but destroyed even faster. In the heart of this neighborhood lives Leah, a woman in her 30s whose name is whispered with contempt and curiosity. She is known as the biggest prostitute in the neighborhood. Men desire her, some respect her for her strength and audacity, but many despise her, seeing only an image in her. Yet, behind her dark eyes and fragile smile hides a woman of sharp intelligence, surprising generosity, and unwavering courage. Leah did not choose her life for pleasure, she adapted to it to survive and to help her little sister, Mina, who dreams of going to school and changing her life. On the other side of the neighborhood, in a simple but welcoming house, lives Samuel, Pastor Ellie's only son. From childhood, he has been nurtured by his father's faith and moral authority. Samuel is respectful and devout, but different from many other young people his age. He observes the world with curiosity and compassion, not content with hasty judgments. Unlike those around him, he knows that life is complex, that everyone has their reasons, and that goodness isn't always found where one expects it. Their paths, though seemingly so distant socially and morally in the eyes of the neighborhood, are destined to cross. What appears to be an ordinary encounter on a dusty street will soon become a life-changing event for both of them. In this neighborhood where everyone thinks they know everyone else, no one imagines that Leah and Samuel could share anything more than a simple polite greeting. In the coming days, this neighborhood, teeming with rumors and judgments, will witness an improbable story. A story of love, courage, and redemption that will shake the convictions of all those who believe the past defines the future. And it is here, in this mosaic of broken lives and silent dreams, that the story of Leah and Samuel begins, two souls that everything seems to oppose, and who will eventually find each other. The late afternoon sun cast a golden light on the narrow streets of Rivière Saint. Children played jump rope between parked cars, street vendors called out their wares, and the life of the neighborhood beat to the rhythm of its inhabitants. Leah walked down the main street, her heels clicking on the uneven cobblestones. She wore a fitted dress that drew the attention of passers-by, some admiring, others critical. The whispers didn't bother her, she had learned to live with the judgment of others. Her goal that evening was simple: to get home, prepare dinner for Mina, and try to preserve a little bit of tenderness in their difficult lives. On the corner, Samuel was helping an elderly neighbor carry her shopping bags to her door. His slightly wrinkled shirt and warm smile contrasted sharply with the strictness and discipline instilled in him by his father, Pastor Ellie. As he handed the last bag to the neighbor, his gaze met Lee's. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Samuel was struck by Leah's natural grace, but also by a certain melancholy in her eyes. Leah, for her part, was surprised by the authenticity and gentleness of her smile. "Excuse me," said Samuel, hesitantly, I think you dropped that." He held out a small envelope that Leah hadn't even noticed falling from her bag. She looked at him suspiciously, her eyebrows slightly furrowed. "Thanks," she replied, her voice firm but polite. "It's nothing." A silence fell. Samuel sensed the strangeness of the moment. There was something in his gaze, an untold story, a subtle pain that contrasted with the assurance of his gait. "Have you lived here for a long time?" he asked, attempting to break the silence. Leah raised an eyebrow, surprised by the sincere interest. "Long enough to know the gossip," she replied with a small, wry smile. "And you? Are you from the neighborhood?" "No. Well, I've lived here for a few years. My father is the pastor of the church on the next street over." The word pastor made Leah flinch slightly. She had heard of Samuel's family, known for their moral rigor and influence in the neighborhood. She doubted he could really be interested in someone like her. "Ah, the pastor's son," she murmured, half to herself. Samuel noticed the nuance in her voice but wasn't offended. On the contrary, he smiled gently, impressed by her frankness. "I'm not judging you," he said simply that I just wanted to say hello. Leah remained silent for a moment, observing the honesty in her eyes. Then, with a small laugh, she replied. So, hello, son of the pastor. This simple exchange marked the beginning of something unexpected. Two seemingly opposing worlds had collided, and yet, a fragile but real bond had been forged. In the noisy and unforgiving streets of Rivière Saint, a story of friendship and curiosity was born, ready to defy judgment and change their lives forever. In the days that followed, Samuel couldn't stop thinking about Leah. He kept seeing her in his mind's eye, walking confidently through the dusty streets of Rivière Saint, her gaze both hard and vulnerable. He, accustomed to a life governed by his father's strict morals, was fascinated by this woman who seemed to know life inside and out, yet who remained mysterious. One afternoon, he found her near a small market where she was chatting with a fruit vendor. Passers-by were whispering, some looking at her curiously, others disapprovingly. Samuel approached cautiously, but with a reassuring smile. "Hi, Leah. I was just passing by and I thought," he began, a little hesitantly. "You wanted to spy on me," she replied with a mocking but gentle smile. "You know, some people just look at me to make fun of me or to daydream a little, not to talk." Samuel laughed softly, feeling neither intimidated nor judged. "No, I just want to understand. People talk so much about you, but I want to know the real Leah." A silence fell, then Leah sighed. It was the first time she had let her vulnerability show in front of someone who wasn't judging her. "Do you really want to know?" she asked, her voice low. "Very well, but it's far from pretty." She then told him about her life, her choices, her struggles. How she had started working on the street to help her little sister Mina, how she had learned to survive in a neighborhood where opportunities were scarce and where the gaze of others could be cruel. She spoke of her dreams, her desires for a different life, and her constant fear that her past or her reputation would condemn her forever. Samuel listened attentively, without ever interrupting. For him, each word revealed not a fault, but an inner strength that he deeply admired. "You know, Leah," he said softly, "your life doesn't define you. You are so much more than what others say about you." Leah looked at him, surprised by his sincerity. Few people in the neighborhood had ever said something so true, without ulterior motive or judgment. "And you, do you think your father would agree to meet me?" she asked, half serious, half mocking. Samuel shrugged, a sly smile on his lips. "I don't know, but I'm willing to try." "And you, are you ready to bring a little light into this dark neighborhood?" Leah smiled, feeling for the first time in a long time that someone saw beyond her reputation. From that day on, a strange but comforting routine settled in. They would cross paths in the streets, share sincere conversations, and sometimes, Leah would teach Samuel a few rudiments of music or poetry that she had learned on her own. Their friendship grew, and with it, a mutual admiration that was slowly beginning to transform into something deeper. But the neighborhood, with its gossip and snap judgments, wasn't going to stay silent for long. Their meetings didn't go unnoticed, and soon, whispers began to circulate, the pastor's son with the prostitute. Disapproving glances, malicious comments, the rumor would test the strength of their bond and their courage. And in Leah's heart, a glimmer of hope began to shine. Perhaps one day, despite everything, she could dream of a life where love and respect would prevail over the past and judgments. The whispers that had begun circulating in the alleyways of Rivière Saint had turned into a veritable storm. Every street corner seemed thick with judgment. Neighbors whispered behind their windows, vendors commented on their comings and goings, and even some children repeated words they didn't fully understand but that hurt to hear. Leah felt the weight of those stares pressing down on her with every step. She had learned to ignore the scorn and insults, but seeing Samuel caught up in this storm broke her heart. Yet, each time she met his gaze, she found a little more courage. One Sunday morning, Samuel walked through the church doors with Leah at his side. The air was thick with tension. His father, Pastor Elia, had heard the rumor and was waiting for his son with a stern, impassive expression. The congregation whispered from behind the pews, casting curious and sometimes accusatory glances at Leah. "Samuel," the pastor began, his deep voice resonating in the church. What do I see? With her? Leah felt her heart tighten, but Samuel took her hand and remained upright, his eyes fixed on his father. Yes, father. I am with Leah. You don't understand, replied the pastor, his anger rising. Her past, the whole neighborhood is talking. How can you? I understand your concerns, Samuel replied calmly, but what people say isn't the truth. Leah is generous, courageous, and she is much more than a reputation or rumors. A murmur rippled through the church. Some worshippers seemed shocked, others indignant. But Samuel did not back down. I won't let myself be guided by the judgment of others. Leah and we respect and understand each other. And I believe that's the true value of a person. The pastor lowered his eyes, unable to respond at that moment. Leah felt the tension, but also a strange mixture of pride and gratitude. Samuel had just defended her publicly, and for her, that was stronger than any protection or external judgment. In the days that followed, the rumor continued to spread. Leah faced hateful stares in the neighborhood, insults in the markets, and mockery on street corners. Despite the pressure, Samuel never left her alone. Every encounter, every smile, every sincere word became a shield against judgment. But the hardest part was yet to come. Leah knew that for their relationship to survive, she had to confront her reputation and prove that she was more than the whispers suggested. And Samuel knew that to truly love Leah, he would have to face the disapproval of his family, his church, and an entire neighborhood that thought it knew the truth. For the first time in a long time, Leah felt that courage came not only from surviving, but also from daring to hope and love despite the obstacles. The weeks that followed were marked by tension and uncertainty. The Rivière Saint neighborhood continued to whisper about Leah and Samuel's relationship, and some members of the church continued to disapprove of their friendship. But Samuel and Leah stood firm, more united than ever. Every hardship, every malicious remark, only strengthened their bond. One Sunday morning, Pastor Ellie summoned Samuel to the church office. Leah, for the first time, was invited to come in with him. Samuel took her hand firmly, ready to defend their love once more. I see that you have remained firm, said Elijah, his eyes fixed on his son, but the community, and our church. Father, Samuel said, I know what people think, but Leah is a woman of integrity. She has been through trials that few can understand. She has never hurt anyone and has always helped others. Leah, visibly moved, spoke up. I'm not seeking everyone's approval, just that of those who truly matter. And I deeply respect your faith, Mr. Ellie. The pastor observed Leah, scrutinizing her sincere gaze. After a long silence, he sighed, then slowly nodded. Very well, if you are certain of your choice, Samuel, then I trust you. The rumors and judgments of the neighborhood hadn't disappeared, but something had changed. The residents began to notice the strength of their bond and the sincerity of their love. Little by little, their gazes became more tolerant, and some even admiring. A few months later, in a small church decorated simply but illuminated by emotion, Leah and Samuel were married. The pews were filled with neighbors, friends, and a few church members who had come to witness this unique moment. Leah wore a simple yet elegant dress, and Samuel couldn't take his eyes off her radiant smile. As they exchanged vows, a feeling of wonder and redemption swept through the crowd. It wasn't just a wedding, it was the victory of love over prejudice, proof that light can emerge from darkness, and that a person's true worth is measured not by their past, but by their heart. When the pastor pronounced the final blessing, Leah and Samuel looked at each other tenderly, aware that they had just taken a step that would change not only their lives, but also that of the entire neighborhood. And in the backstreets of Rivière Saint, the whispers had changed. The murmurs of contempt were gradually transforming into murmurs of respect and admiration. The neighborhood's most notorious prostitute had married the pastor's son, and, in the process, she had proven to everyone that no one should be judged solely by their past.